Today on Adapt and Respond, I want to talk about Sam Leavitt at LSU and does he put them over the top? The answer is obviously yes, or more discerningly no. It really depends on, well, we're going to talk about that. And what happened to Terrion Arnold? All that's coming up after the bumper. What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. If this is your first time watching Adapt and Respond, thank you for joining us here. We talk college football year-round. If you're into that, consider joining the more than 209,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond, a college football podcast. You can also catch us on Apple and Spotify if you so choose. We do college football every day around here, and preseason is right around the corner with Big 12 Media Days coming on Tuesday, and you're probably watching this on a Monday. Want to talk about Sam Leavitt. Want to talk about the SEC, LSU in it, and whether or not Sam Leavitt actually does put LSU over the top. But first, I want to talk about Terrion Arnold and his spectacular fall from grace. Terrion Arnold, as many of you probably know, was a former All-American cornerback at the University of Alabama. As a matter of fact, I believed at the time, 2023, Terrion Arnold was going to enter the NFL draft in the first round, and he was going to become one of the better corners in the NFL. It's not just because he played corner at Alabama or was a first-team All-American or has been on teams that know how to win championships. He also was an excellent producer. I mean, 2023 alone, 5 interceptions, 63 tackles, a sack, and I think a forced fumble in there as well at 6'1" and couldn't move, right? I enjoyed watching Terrion Arnold play in large part because he would go for it, and sometimes he was wrong for going for it. See ball, get ball, as opposed to play ball. But I grew fond of him in October of 2023, just after Alabama had stomped a mud hole in Mississippi State and walked it dry. But you'll know that every game is a life or death game for Nick Saban. And that's what it meant to play for him. Everybody understood this. Everybody understood on the sidelines. Everybody understood in the box. Everybody stood in the fans, in the attendance. You were going to play for Nick Saban. You're going to play hard, whistle to whistle. And you were going to play as perfectly as was humanly possible. And you knew this because he was there to coach you up every step of the way. So Terrion Arnold was seen on television getting absolutely chewed out by Nick Saban. A good old-fashioned Nick Saban ass chewing. He's given out many. Some of them were lucky enough to catch on tape, and they're exciting to watch because, well, Nick Saban becomes a cartoon character of himself. And all this coach or player can do is sit there and take it. Just got to take the full blast, like a dragon breathing fire into your face. And Terrion Arnold's response to it, I thought, was illuminating about his character. He said, look, I knew he was hot when I was coming off the field. It's like, ooh, he about to give it to somebody. And then as he got closer, Saban was training his eyes on him. He said, ooh, he about to give it to me. And he was giving it to him in such a way that other people would have folded, and so much so that reporters noticed it and asked him about it. And Arnold says, hey, look, you got to know that he's trying to coach you up. You can't really focus on the emotion that's coming with his words. And you got to listen to what he's saying because he's trying to make you better. Which reporter was like, hey, is that hard to do when somebody is yelling in your face? And he goes, I mean, yeah, but you still got to ask questions because you want to know how to fix it. And you got to be able to fix it. So you have to stand in that moment, let this dragon breathe fire on you, and then politely ask that dragon, what would you like me to do differently the next time? And I loved that. I really did, because that is maturity at a high level. There are adults that never get to be that mature, that are 3 and 4 times his age. And I think that underscored the 3.8 GPA that he had at Alabama and the way in which players and coaches would talk about him. Matter of fact, last week, Jacksonville State head coach Charles Kelly, who was cornerbacks coach at Alabama when Terrion Arnold came through and was being recruited, said, look, you could not tell me that I was going to have a problem with Terrion Arnold. I never, ever thought he was going to be in with the wrong crowd or make a bad decision when he left my office. He was a model character. Nick Saban even believed this after Terrion Arnold was arrested for counts of armed robbery, kidnapping, among other things. Even wrote a letter to judge on behalf of him to grant him bail and $1 million. That's how much Saban believed in him. And Saban is believed in most of his players. What's really interesting about Arnold's case, though, is this work that The Athletic has just got done doing. It's published. You should go read it. It's very good. The summary is that Arnold is accused of leading a plot to kidnap, rob, and pistol whip a couple of guys that he believed might have stolen from him after he invited them and others to an Airbnb to have a good time. It turns out it's always the bros that don't look like they gonna go do it who probably be bowdy about it, allegedly, right? What I find to be fascinating about this is that given what we know about Terrion Arnold, how he's viewed by teammates who love him, how he's viewed by coaches who love him, how he's viewed by most people in his community who love him, is that in this case, it seems, allegedly, he's either too smart for his own good, believing that he could get away with this, or we never really get to know or understand the guy. He's fully on every time he goes out. I think both things can be true. I think the shock of finding out that Terrion Arnold has been charged with felonies as a millionaire playing in the NFL, who was drafted in the first round of the 2024 draft, that part, we're not able to really compute that as quickly as we like because nothing about it jives with the character that we know. So his fall from grace has everything to do with his image. He's partying in Largo, which I think you know what kind of person lives in Largo, Florida. But if you don't, picture the rich suburb in your city, now 10x it, okay? So he brought a whole bunch of folks over to a place in Largo, and they were loud and they are obnoxious. But even during this period, there's a neighbor that Arnold went to go ask to see their security footage after he had been robbed, who said, look, I wanted to tell him, hey, man, you ain't with the wrong crowd. I need you to do better. I need you to get up out of here. I need you to get rid of these people because you seem like you got it together and they do not. Right? What is fascinating about the Athletics reporting is that Arnold allegedly is the wrong crowd. People were acting on his behalf because he told them to. And he's also thinking that he could play the police to do some hunting for him, some chasing for him, and his partners at the same time, telling the police what he knows, finding out from them his cell phone ain't with him, is moving in Miami, and then going, oh, okay, I see. Gives the police what they need, and then immediately goes, all right, find these dudes in Miami, bring them to me. I mean, on some bring Aegon the usurper to me, right? Like that's what it felt like when you're reading through this. And you got text message exchanges from friends who are like, hey, maybe we should delete these text messages. You got other group chats that are created talking about, hey, drop everything that you know in here. This feels coordinated, and it doesn't feel like there's much in the way of defense here based on what we know. You've also got a chief of police that is grandstanding, talking about, what you can or can't get away with as a football player. But this is part of it, right? I think the more we learn about being young and black and having money, the more I wish that we would act on what we know to be true. And that quite simply is, hey, bro, I know you want to go gambling. I know you like to have a good time. I know you want to have your partners over, but just this once, can you just go play a game of spades, dominoes, and drink this lemonade and wake up in the morning and go do your $1 million job? Because talking about whether or not Terrion Arnold has to wear an ankle monitor after the Lions cut him, trying to get a job, but also facing hard prison time, ain't fun for any of us. All right. After the bumper, I want to talk about Sam Leavitt. Is he the guy to bring LSU its first national championship since 2019? Or put another way, is Sam Leavitt Joe Burrow? Back on Adapt and Respond with me, RJ Young. If you are new to the channel, consider joining the more than 209,000 subscribers to Adapt and Respond, a college football podcast. You can also catch us on Spotify and on Apple if you so choose. In this segment, I want to talk about LSU and Sam Leavitt. And, I asked this question earnestly. Is Sam Leavitt good enough to put LSU over the top at quarterback to lead them to a national championship in 2026? Or, as I said before the break, is he Joe Burrow? And I think that comp is not as far-fetched as you might think it is, dog. Sam Leavitt began his career at Michigan State, was starter there, transfers to Arizona State, and in his first year there, immediately leads that 3-9 program to the college football playoff and a Big 12 championship and a top seed. That's Joe Burrow-esque. I have taken a bad program or a middling program and flipped it into a contender, right? Now, add to this, Sam Leavitt has been a winner whenever he's been allowed to start football games in college. 20 total starts. He is 16-4 as a starting quarterback. Again, very Joe Burrow-esque. Last year, he suffered a Liz Frank fracture in his foot that prevented him from playing most of the year at Arizona State. What they were going to return versus what they were offering versus what he could get into by going into the portal, I mean, we're talking about night and day difference here. Sam Leavitt and Brendan Sorsby were two of the most coveted quarterbacks in the last cycle transfer portal. And many believed at the time that Sam Leavitt was the better player of the two quarterbacks. Now, he's the only one of the two that's playing college football. Leavitt also gives Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weiss Jr. the kind of ability at quarterback that they loved having in Trinidad Chambliss. And I think that's going to be the direct comparison for him at LSU in 2026. Why? Because Trinidad Chambliss has the arm and the feet to make anything he wants to happen on a football field. He immediately came through. Weiss immediately knew what he had, and Kiffin let them cook. If they pick Sam Leavitt, it's because they believe they got a similar skill set that they can work with. Okay. Now, I think of Sam Leavitt very much in those terms. Is he going to be as pivotal, as great, as productive as Trinidad Chambliss? He has every opportunity to be. He really does. He could throw for 5, 6, 300-yard games. He could have 4,000 yards passing, 40 TDs. He can lead you to the college football playoff, and he can even do what Trinidad Chambliss did, which is win a game or two. And that's what you're going to be up against. But given what we know about how Weiss has called that offense and what Lane Kiffin has asked his quarterbacks to do, the question ahead of Leavitt for many isn't, is he going to be good? It's, is he going to be healthy if he's good, right? I don't know that we can act as if coming back from a Liz Frank injury, like Kevin Durant say, is a big deal, but it's big enough to keep you out of camp, right? It's big enough to ask you or not to do anything in the offseason. But there's every indication that he is progressing as he should. And I'm sure we're going to find out at SEC Media Days the same. If he is available to play, he's probably going to start. And when they get to play Ole Miss very early in the season, we are all going to get a really, really good look at not just how good he is, but how good that offense is. And that's another thing that I think is going to help him tremendously. The offense that Sam Leavitt gets to run with the personnel he gets to run it with is every bit as potent and as good as that team called Ole Miss in 2025 or any other SEC program in 2026. They got it up and down the ladder. They spent a reported $40 million on the roster. They brought in a 5-star offensive tackle in Jordan Seaton. They've got a superstar in Trades Green at tight end. They're going to be nasty on defense. Blake Baker's back there. I think he's good enough to get them over the top. In the same way that I thought that Brendan Sorsby's good enough to get Texas Tech over the top. What I don't know about Sam Leavitt is, can he himself win you games in the SEC the way that Joe Burrow could go win you games in the SEC? That remains to be seen. And this, for me, is going to make a comparison I think you'll understand and appreciate. It's not, is he Joe Burrow for me, is he better than John Mateer at Oklahoma? Because that was my knock on him. Now, granted, two things here. One, John Mateer was coming from a group of 6 program where he played mostly group of 6 opponents, Washington State. Washington State doesn't feel that way, but you get my point when you look at the schedule. He shows up to the SEC, and he ain't exactly lighting everybody up. He's good. He's not great. Joe Burrow was great. Sam Leavitt is coming from the Big 12, which is a step up from a group of 6, and he played some really great football teams on the way to the college football playoff. And with Cam Scattaboo in the backfield, Jordan Tyson on the outside, they gave Texas everything they could handle and damn near came away with the W. I think if he has a team that's more talented than that Arizona State team, and I think this LSU team is, the question of whether or not he can get it done should be answered. Like, if we are going to pick up 2023 Sam Leavitt, drop him in 2026 with this offense, yeah, I think he can go win you football games in the SEC. Is he going to be Jaden Daniels? No, nobody is, right? Is he going to be Caleb Williams? It's possible. I'm saying, again, Trinidad Chambliss is where you want to live here. I really do want this to hit home with people. The Ferris State Division II transfer came in the same year that the much heralded 3,000-yard passer, 800-yard rusher John Mateer did. One greatly outplayed the other over the course of the season. Imagine if Trinidad Chambliss had played at Arizona State last year, or the year before that, excuse me. Do you think that Arizona State would have beat Texas in the college football playoff? That's what we're asking here. Is that putting LSU over the top? Now, selfishly, I would have loved to have seen Trinidad Chambliss play on this LSU team. I understand why it doesn't. Ole Miss fans, don't get too mad at me for this, but as a football guy, as a guy who loves the sport, talks about it nationally, I genuinely believe that those 3 guys are box office on whatever teams they play on, but sometimes I just want to stack the deck, right? I want to see Trinidad Chambliss at LSU. I also want to see Sam Leavitt at Ole Miss. I would like to see John Mateer at both of those spots and, move them around like EA College Football Sport 27. All to say, yeah, he's that good. Can he be a 3,000-yard passer? You betcha. He should be. 30 TDs? Absolutely. Less than 10 interceptions? Yes. But when it comes time to play the big game in the big spot, can he go get you a W? We're going to find out whether or not that Liz Frank injury has changed the clutch gene in Sam Leavitt. Here's to hoping it hasn't. All right, if you like Adapt and Respond, send this to a friend, subscribe to the channel, rate and review the podcast on Apple and Spotify, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Deuces.